I'm gonna switch sides because y'all everybody coming this way.
Sure.
Good morning. Welcome to MEC's Capitol Day. I will give everybody an opportunity to find a seat. We'll go get rolling here. We got a very exciting day today. As y'all know, Capitol Day, we try to be a little more casual in how we do our event. So we're really excited about what's transpired over the last year here in the state and some of the things that we were able to get done at MEC. But more importantly, we're very excited about what's ahead. And it is my honor to welcome you to Capitol Day. We really appreciate everybody being here. It is just one of those things that gives us a chance to find out what's going on with the legislative session really early in the process and helps us really understand how we can work with legislative leaders. Joining us in just a few minutes will be Governor Tate Reeves to talk about what has transpired and how we build on the momentum that Mississippi has in so many ways to help us improve our state. We'll then move over to the Capitol for our legislative briefings and really kind of talk about it with that. One of the key things I'm looking forward to today is we have 3 career coaches. These are the folks who are on the ground in our schools in the state of Mississippi, making a difference with young people's lives and helping them determine what their career pathway may end up being. So again, a great opportunity for us to learn. And then our own Jason Word and I will talk a little bit about kind of what we can expect in this upcoming session. But first, I want to introduce to you Jeff Bowman, our chairman of MEC this year. Jeff is the CEO of Cooperative Energy. Jeff, thank you for being with us this morning. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here, Scott. You mentioned it being more casual. Anytime I have to put a tie on now, it doesn't feel more casual, but I'm sure compared to some other events this is. It's a great way to kick off the new year. It's hard to believe it is 2024. I always know that when we come for Capitol Day, that it's time to get back to business and out of the holiday routine.
It is, and I tell you, one of the things that we focus on at MEC is helping grow the economy, and I know that's one of y'all's objectives, be cooperative energy, especially when it comes to economic development, business recruitment. Y'all play a major role in that. You know, we've had multiple conversations with the governor about what's been happening. Tell me a little bit about the role that y'all play and what not only you do as a company, but all of MEC members collectively do in helping grow our economy.
Well, you mentioned the governor. I think for us to grow our economy like we want to, it has to start there. And we're fortunate we have a governor and elected officials that are focused on bringing more jobs to our state. And when we talk about economic development, that's what we consider. We're talking about bringing more jobs, more opportunities for every Mississippian. And we like to talk about it in terms of total capital dollars or total jobs, but we don't ever need to lose sight of the fact that every new job we bring to the state represents an entire family in Mississippi that goes from being unemployed to employed or underemployed to fully employed. And it makes a difference that you can't really quantify in terms of capital dollars or jobs. But it's critical that once we have that support from the governor and others, that across all business sectors, we do our part to help continue to grow our economy. And this is the way MEC, basically being the voice of business across all sectors of business in our state, does a great job of connecting us to our policymakers and kicking the season off with Capitol Day.
And speaking of kicking it off with Capitol Day, this year is the earliest possible date of the month that we can hold Capitol Day. Anytime the first falls on a Monday, I kind of dread it because I know I've got about a day and a half to turn around a lot of stuff because we're going to have some of our closest friends with us for a little while on the 4th. But, we're here and really, as you can see from just the number of people here, the people that will be in and out throughout the day, what makes this event so special for MEC?
Well, I mentioned earlier, for me, it still feels like we're in a holiday schedule, but once you arrive here, it's time to get back to work. I mean, we've got our elected leaders getting started to work, but the thing that MEC does with this that I think is so beneficial to its members is it does kickstart the new year. It gets us refocused on business, but it connects us with our elected leaders. We get to hear from them what their priorities are, but we also get to collaborate with them so that they understand what our concerns are as well. Just a great event.
Well, one of the things MEC is so good at that because of the leadership we have with our boards and our members is creating a vision for the state. And a couple of years ago, we introduced our Securing Mississippi's Future, which outlined 5 goals to help us really move our state forward. You know, several of those recommendations are already being enacted, and we're building on some of that. Why is the vision so important for this organization to be successful?
Well, I think this organization and any other one, you have to know kind of where you want to go. And it helps MEC to lay out for its members, okay, what our priorities are. What's the old saying that if you don't know where you're going, you'll always get there? I mean, having that strategic vision is critical for us to continue to focus on growing the economy in the ways we think are best for business. But it also allows us to, when we have that strategic vision and that path forward, we can collaborate better with our elected leaders, those policymakers. And what we find is that in many cases, we share the same goals. And so then it's a matter of just collaborating and figuring out what's the best way to get there, to benefit all Mississippians and ultimately continue to grow the economy, make our state a better place for all Mississippians to live.
And one of the things that we do is try to continue to figure out what's coming down the line, looking ahead. And a couple of months ago at Hobnob, we announced our AIM initiative. I know hopefully some of y'all were there and heard a little bit about this, but what it is, it has 3 major points. One is a student-centered K-12 accountability model that really focuses on how do we do a better job of balancing, that model in terms of what students are learning in high school. Secondly is how do we focus on post-secondary attainment in driving our Ascent to 55 initiative to get more people to have either a credential, a community college, associate's degree, or either a bachelor's or higher. That's a big part of that. And then finally, the last part is the one that we really got to put a lot of time and thought into, because we got to grow our economy, but we also have to grow our population. And that begins with young professionals to make sure that we give opportunities for young professionals to not only stay here in Mississippi, but attract people from other groups. This is one of the things that we do that helps us work together with both the public and the private sector to identify these things. So as we do this, we really have to focus on some of those things. So, tell us a little bit, if you would, about how all of this working together makes a really important thing for us to kind of focus our attention on.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd start with saying what the AIM effort is not. It's not us as business telling others how it needs to be done. What it is, it's our effort to give input to the needs that we have in the business world, right? And then hopefully align those with our education and workforce programs. So we're not telling folks how it needs to be done or how to better do it, but we do want to make sure that we're part of the process and we express here the areas that we think we need skilled workforce changes perhaps, or if we have a deficiency in other areas. These are things by collaborating, and again, this is what MEC does very well, connecting the private business world with our public agencies and hopefully coming out with a better result, because if we do this successfully, then again, the result is we have more Mississippians gainfully employed here in our state, and that's what we in the business world need.
Well, it is, and I think as we look at this and try to figure out our best approach to it, just a few minutes ago, our operating board met, and we put together what will be our legislative agenda for this upcoming session. And all of those things that we talked about, how do we do a better job of focusing on workforce development and getting all those things in place? How do we do a better job of making sure that we're funding the career coach model? How do we do a better job of being involved in the conversation around healthcare and all of those things? The other issues is, one of the things that'll be on the table this year is financial aid. How do we improve the amount of financial aid, and more importantly, expand that to the non-traditional and those students? So as MEC took on these ideas and these approaches, and with the support of our members and the support of our board, it really gives us the voice to be the voice.
MEC being a very strong voice of business, and this event is, I think, emblematic of that. In closing, I'll say I thank MEC staff for a lot of hard work to put this together, and again, this early. That means they had to do a lot of work during the holiday season, which we all should appreciate. If you see them, please thank them. We're going to get to hear from the governor here this morning. We'll go to the Capitol and see some of our other elected officials. Please, if you get the opportunity, thank them as well. They've got 1,000 things on their plate right now that they need to be doing, and so we're appreciative of their time. And on behalf of MEC, thank you all for being here today, but also thank you for your support of MEC, but more importantly, thank you for everything you do in our state to improve the quality of life for all Mississippians. It makes a difference, and together it feels like with our elected officials, we are moving Mississippi forward in a very positive direction.
Well, Jeff, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. I want to thank our board for their leadership as well. And we appreciate you spending a few minutes this morning talking about what's going on at MEC, and look forward to a great day here at Capitol Day.
Yeah, glad to do it, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Governor. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Tate Reeves.
Morning.
Good morning.
Tend to put on some weight, and our blue planet gets a little greener. Atmos Energy,
Gotta pay the bills.
your natural gas company.
Anyway.
If anybody understands paying the bills after 2023, I understand you got to pay the bills.
Thank you for being with us this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you at Capitol Day, but it's always fun to just sit down and talk about some of the great things that's happening in the state of Mississippi. And, you know, in just a few days, you're going to be sworn in for your second term. And, but I wanted to take just a minute and talk about some of the great things that have happened in your first term and how we build on it. And I think a lot of people probably don't understand the impact of what has taken place despite dealing with a pandemic. And I don't know, we've talked about, I don't know how many natural disasters that you had to deal with in a certain amount of time. But during that same time, over $8 billion of capital investment from an economic development standpoint, creating about 14,000 jobs over time here in the state, including a major one up in the Columbus area with Steel Dynamics aluminum plant. A lot of momentum. How do we keep that momentum going?
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you today. And we have had tremendous success in economic development. The kind of success that Mississippi's never, ever seen before. And much of it did come right after the pandemic. And so what I would tell you is, you know, my motto to my team is always the same, which is, you know, with great challenges come great opportunities. And the thing that the pandemic allowed us to do in 2020 and to a certain extent in 2021 is sort of take a step back and analyze everything that was going on in government and figure out where are the areas where we can make a real difference. And at the end of the day, the pandemic gave us the opportunity to show to the world that Mississippi was open for business. And it also gave us the opportunity to show to the world, CEO, and I still hear from CEOs all the time, some of you in the room, but also all around the country and around the globe, that Mississippians during the pandemic showed up for work and they produced the products they were supposed to produce and got them to the marketplace. And the reality is that didn't happen in every state across America. That didn't happen in a lot of states across America. And so it put us in a position unlike anything that we've ever seen, giving us the opportunity to show to the world that yes, we are open for business and that we can really see that we have a workforce that really matters. And so that was certainly something that was critical to our success. But also, you know, you and I have talked, we knew that we had challenges for literally since what feels like the beginning of time in the K-12 educational system. Well, in 2012 and 2013, we passed conservative reforms that are making a huge difference. And that's, you know, I tell people, I almost choked on my catfish when I read in the New York Times the Mississippi Miracle story. Because they don't ever say anything positive about Mississippi, right? But they couldn't help but write something positive about our state, because in K through 12, we are winning now when compared to our peers. But it wasn't just limited to that. We had to also focus on workforce development, workforce training. We had to work on site development. You know, we've done things in the area and in the realm of site development that no other state in America is doing. One of the biggest challenges to new economic development projects in America today is the lack of ready sites. That's true in Mississippi, but it's really true all around the country. And so we made a decision in my administration the first year. We found $27 million from various pots, cobbled it together, and started a site development program. We then went to the legislature the next year and asked them for $50 million, and they gave it to us. And so we had $77 million. And then last year we asked for 50 again. We got 20. We need more, but we got 20. And that's one of the things I'll say to all of you. If you really want to see economic development continue to take off in Mississippi, help me get more site development money. Help me get more sites in areas all across the state. And I can show you on our MDA website, there are 30 sites ready to be developed. Right now, we just need more money to invest in those sites. And those investments are going to consist of water, sewer, roads, core functions of government that we ought to be doing anyway. And so that's, you know, we got a lot going on, and you might can tell I'm kind of excited about it. So,
well, I want to touch on real quick one of the things you mentioned, and that's the positive attention that the state has been receiving, particularly on the education benefit. I mean, I know you were very involved as the lieutenant governor on the third grade reading gate, which has resulted in that. It's those long-term benefits that I think that are going to pay off, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But I want to also mention that, you know, this happened over a 10-year period, so things don't happen overnight. One of the other things that has happened in the last couple of years in your term as governor is the creation of the Office of Workforce Development. And that Office of Workforce Development is just a couple of years old, but we're already starting to see some benefits. Do you think both from the benefits we're seeing in education and what we're expected to see in the long-term outcomes with workforce, how is that really going to help move us as we go forward?
Well, I'll tell you. So let's think about, let's start with the K through 12 area, because that's where that's going to take the longest, right? Because we're starting with kindergartners, whereas if you start talking about workforce development, hopefully we're starting with 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And so when they start getting into the workforce 3-4 years from now, they should be ready. But the key, we believe, early in 12 and 13 is you got to start with a better foundation. And if you start with a better foundation, your workforce development programs are going to be better because you have better students getting that workforce development and workforce training. And so where we find ourselves today is if you look at the 4th graders in Mississippi and you look at 4th grade reading and 4th grade math results, our kids, relative to every other state in the Southeast, we're doing better than them in 4th grade reading and 4th grade math. So I want to begin by saying, if you have the smartest 4th graders in the southeastern United States, which we do, then in 10 years, you're going to have the smartest workforce in the southeastern United States, because those 4th graders are going to continue to matriculate through school, and they're going to be graduating high school at a much higher level than what Mississippians were graduating high school 10, 15, 20 years ago. So let's start with that. That's critically important, and that's happening. Now let's talk about the Office of Workforce Development, Accelerate Mississippi. You know, one of the things that I find interesting, having been doing this for a long, long time, some of you may think longer than I should have been, but having been in government for a long, long time, the thing that strikes me is I started working on economic development projects the first week or 2 or 3 or 4 of the Haley Barbour administration as state treasurer. And the question that was always asked first, back from about 2004 to 2012 or so, was, tell me about your incentives. Tell me about your incentives. How much money are you going to write? What kind of check are you going to write me to come to Mississippi? And by the way, the companies always get around to that, but that's no longer the first question. Moving into 2012 to 2020, the first question became, tell me about your workforce. And that's one of the areas that when I came in as governor, I think we had some focus on it for many, many years, but maybe not the kind of focus that we needed. And so that's the reason we worked with the legislature, MEC, and a lot of other groups to create Accelerate, the Office of Workforce Development. It's more or less private sector run. I mean, it is a government entity that has a 7-person board that is appointed by the governor, lieutenant governor, and it is private sector industry leaders telling us what we need to invest in. And what we're trying to do is invest in workforce programs where we know there are going to be jobs available in the next 50 years. Just to give you an example, we have invested over the last several years about $126 million on 135 new and expanding programs, mostly at our community colleges, like a huge majority at our community colleges. But we've done it in areas where we believe they're going to be high demand, good paying jobs in the future. So as an example, energy and IT. I think we can all agree that there's a lot of opportunities in that space over the next 10 to 15, 20 years. We've invested $14 million in new programs and expanding programs. Healthcare, we've invested $55 million in healthcare programs to train the healthcare workforce of tomorrow. We've invested $30 million in advanced manufacturing. We've invested $17 million in programs for logistics and construction. Again, all of those are areas where we're not just guessing that there are going to be jobs available for the next 20 years. We're pretty highly confident that there are going to be jobs available, and we need to train our people and invest in our people to be able to do those jobs of the next 50 years. And what I would say about, and I'll just conclude by this, and the reason, because I'm not big on creating a new government entity, right? Y'all probably would agree with that. You probably heard me say that before. But the reason we wanted to create the Office of Workforce Development, and the reason we wanted to create Accelerate Mississippi, is because we had a lot of different groups doing a lot of really good things, and we were spending a lot of money, in fact somewhere between $350 and $370 million a year on workforce development. But there was not a coordinated effort. And there's got to be coordination, and there's got to make to ensure that there's accountability, there's got to be coordination. And we know that if we're going to spend that much money every year doing something that is important as workforce training, we got to have an accountability model. And that's why Accelerate Mississippi spent the first, I don't remember, a couple years on the 18th floor of the Sillers building. I don't know if you know this, but the governor's office is on the 18th and the 19th floor of the Sillers building, because we wanted to tell everybody, all of you in the room, how important this was to the future of the state in our view, but also so that we had that accountability. And now they're doing fantastic work, and they've moved on, and we're looking to see what we're going to do next in the 18th floor of the governor's office in the Sillers building.
Well, and it's outcomes. I think that's the big thing that in all of the time that you and I have had the opportunity to talk and work together is having policies that really improve outcomes, particularly when it comes to education. Earlier, when Jeff and I were talking, we talked about MEC's newest initiative, which is we refer to as AIM, which is really, it's got three legs to the stool. It's balancing academics and career readiness with the K-12 accountability model. It's looking at post-secondary attainment, how do we improve those numbers, and it's also looking at opportunities for more young professionals here in the state. As we think about outcomes as it relates to education at all levels, what are some of the other things that you are seeing as important out there?
Well, first of all, let me commend you on your conversation around the accountability model, because while we have seen tremendous progress in K through 12 education, the kind of progress we ought to all brag about, by the way, regardless of our political views and our political affiliations. There is really special things happening in the classroom all across Mississippi. But one of the things that we have noticed is the accountability model in the state focuses on those testing methodologies, but it doesn't necessarily test on the career readiness piece of the equation, and therefore we think that the accountability model needs to be tweaked, not overthrown, not overhauled, tweaked. I heard new Speaker of the House, Jason White, talk about that in his speech on Tuesday, so I commend him for his willingness to tackle that, and I commend you as well, because I think that's really important, because it was Jeb Bush who said, in education, and this is true not only in education, but he was specific about education, what gets measured gets done. And in the accountability model today, the local school superintendents, all of whom are doing a good job, they don't get a lot of credit for the career readiness piece of what they're doing in our K through 12 schools, and I think it's important that they get credit. The career coaches, another investment that we've made in the state of Mississippi through Accelerate Mississippi, is a prime example of sort of how do we take models that work and overlay them in the workforce space. So the story that I always tell is when I was growing up at Florence High School, we had a great counselor that sort of guided me in the classes I needed to take at Florence High School. So number one, I could graduate. Number two, I could get into college. And number three, hopefully stay eligible to play basketball when I was in college. Those are the only three things I really cared about at the time. But she did a fantastic job of helping me navigate counseling through that process. But the reality is, what we all know is we need more college graduates in Mississippi, but even so, we're going to have about 70 to 75% of all of our students that are not going to go to college. They're going to go straight into the workforce. So if that counselor model worked so well for those of us who are going to college, shouldn't there be a similar model for those that are going directly into the workforce? Hence, career coaches being born. This has been tried at the local levels, primarily in Northeast Mississippi and in Jackson County in the South, with great success. And I will tell you, we're a couple years into this, trying to move this to a statewide model. And there were certain school districts that were, shall we say, reluctant to participate early on because these career coaches that are in their schools are not paid for by the local schools, they're paid for by the state. And so there was some reluctance originally and initially, but what I would tell you a couple years in, there's very little reluctance. And what we have seen is we've had great success hiring really talented people to be career coaches, to be in our schools. And then finally, I would just say this career coach model also is taking after what we did to get where we are in fourth grade reading and fourth grade math. We went in and the state invested in fourth grade reading coaches. The state invested in fourth grade math coaches, and those investments have a huge return on investment, a huge ROI. And this career coach, I think, is going to have the similar kind of ROI for improving our workforce over the next 5 to 10 years.
And we're really excited about that. And in just a little while, we're going to have 3 career coaches who are on the ground talk about what they're doing and what they're hearing from students. And I think that's going to be.
And let me say this about the career coaches: for them to be successful, there can't just be a buy-in by me or a buy-in by Delbert or a buy-in by Jason or a buy-in by the legislature. Y'all have to buy in, because if you're not communicating with your local career coaches, then the model isn't working. Because you as business and industry, in every ecosystem, we created 8 ecosystems. This is actually something I ran on in 2019. We created 8 ecosystems in our state. We have an ecosystem coordinator that is helping coordinate with our career coaches. But at the end of the day, if you're in the Mississippi Delta and you have job availability, you need to be talking to our ecosystem coordinator and our career coaches in our schools to make sure they are aware of the kind of jobs that you have available. The reason we created the ecosystem model is because we know the kind of people, we have a great need for shipbuilders on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but we ain't building a lot of ships in Northeast Mississippi. And so we got to make sure that we tailor the model to the specific needs in each region of the state. And so I need your buy-in, and I think most of you probably have already participated, but that's critically important that those of you in the private sector that have job availability are communicating with Accelerate Mississippi and communicating with our career coaches, because it's all of us working together.
No, and that's kind of going to lead to my next question, and I'll start by saying, I've reached that age, Governor, where I don't always remember what I did yesterday. But one thing I do remember is the first conversation you and I had. You were still governor-elect. You talked about raising per capita income. All of the things that we've talked about today are going to play into doing that. So why do we have to continue to focus on this goal of yours that you said when you took office?
I'll never forget, in my first speech as governor, after I was sworn in, I talked about the fact that I'm an old economics major. The numbers matter to me. But I said in that speech, and there was a lot of debate amongst my staff, that perhaps maybe I shouldn't say this because it was setting the bar too high, but I said, if you can only judge me on one financial or economic stat my term as governor, I urge you to judge me on per capita income. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters for Mississippians all across the state. And I'm really, really happy to tell you that in the first quarter of 2019, Mississippi's per capita income was right at $38,000 a year. In the third quarter of 2023, our per capita incomes were over $48,000 a year. That means that every Mississippian, on average, is making $10,000 more a year now than they were when I was running for governor. That's almost a 30% increase in per capita income. And what we all know is with the inflation caused by the significant spending in Washington, D.C., a lot of that increases in per capita income has been eaten up by it costing more every time you go to the gas pump, every time you go to the grocery store. But just think if we hadn't had those per capita income increases, we hadn't seen I want to find out. I've got to ask my staff this. How long did it take us to go from $28,000 a year in per capita income to $38,000? How long did it take us to increase by $10,000, and then how long did it take us less than 4 years to go from $38,000 to $48,000? And we got to keep investing to make sure that becomes a reality. Because you talked earlier about economic development. I'm extremely and incredibly proud of our economic development success. But what I'm most proud of is the average wages that these companies are paying when they're moving into our state. Aluminum Dynamics promised 1,000 new jobs at $93,000 a year. That's how you drive per capita incomes, is you bring jobs into the state. You see companies like many of yours that are expanding, that are paying higher wages because they require higher amount of skills. And we've got to meet the demand of what those skills are.
Well, we greatly appreciate you being here, but I cannot let you go without talking about taxes. It's something that MEC has been very involved in, particularly on the business side. You were very helpful in creating a fair and competitive tax environment back when we did the Fairness Tax Initiative when you were Lieutenant Governor. Also, we've seen the franchise tax being phased out, which is a big part of helping businesses. And so we're reducing a lot of things, and now we're in the process of beginning to reduce personal income tax. So why is it important that we continue to focus on having a very strong tax environment in the state?
Well, I would tell you that, I have this theory that if you want more of something, you ought to tax it less. If you want more of something, you ought to tax it less. That's the reason when we passed the initial Taxpayer Pay Raise Act, one of the key components was the total elimination of the corporate franchise tax. As you all know, the corporate franchise tax basically is nothing more than a tax on capital inside Mississippi businesses. We need more capital invested in our businesses. We don't need to tax more capital amongst our businesses. And so we're headed very near the end of that 10-year phase-in of the phase out of the corporate franchise tax. And I think the same can be said when it comes to the individual income tax. Let's first brag on what we've done. There are 9 states in America that have no corporate income tax. 9 states in America. That means there are 41 states that do have a corporate income tax. Of the 41 states that have a corporate income tax, Mississippi has the 5th lowest now. The 4% all-in tax, Mississippi has the 5th lowest. And for those of you who are very interested on what that means for those on the lower end of the income earning scale, Mississippi has the highest deduction of any state in America, where the first $36,000 for a married couple is taxed at 0%. So right now we have 0 income tax for anyone who makes $36,000 and below. We have 0 income tax for anyone who is retired, because we made a decision as a state from a policy standpoint that we wanted to be a retirement state 30 years ago. Mississippi taxes retirement income at 0%, and I'm good with that. But we don't just need more retirees in Mississippi, we need more workers in Mississippi. We need more employees in Mississippi. And so if the income tax at 0% is good enough for retirees, I think it ought to be good enough for those who are actually working. Let them keep more of their money And I think that what we'll see is a flourishing economy, not only because we would be growing economic output, but also because it would help us grow population. You look at the 3 states that increased population the most over the last 10 years, they're all in the Southeast. They're all competitive, friendly competitors to us: Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, all of which have certain unique advantages, to be fair. But one of those advantages is all 3 of them are a no income tax state. And so we're going to continue to push forward on that. When I was Lieutenant Governor the last year, our total annual operating budget at the state of Mississippi was $5.7 billion. We've collected almost somewhere between $7.5 and $8 billion in each of the last 3 years. Where there is a will, there is a way. And we have the ability, I believe, to continue to lower and ultimately eliminate the income tax in our state, which will make us more competitive from an economic development standpoint and make us more competitive from a population standpoint.
Well, we've covered a lot of stuff today. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to touch on that we as an organization can help you be more successful in making sure we're moving our state forward, and I think as we talk about Mississippi's moment?
Well, the only thing I'll say is, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on. Thanks to all of you for helping us over the last 20 years make significant strides in our state. And finally, I just say, when you think about advocacy at the legislature and advocacy with statewide elected officials, that old saying that Haley used to use all the time that supposedly, or he claimed that Fred Smith said, which was the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. The main thing in Mississippi is workforce development, site development, educational achievement levels, and job creation and economic development. If we can all focus on those things, I think you'll see tremendous successes in both the short and the long run.
Well, Governor, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Looking forward to continuing to work with you. And have a great term.
Thanks, Scott.
Everyone wants a fulfilling life, a well-paying career, and a thriving local economy. It starts with a credential beyond a high school degree. A workforce with 4-year degrees is essential, but our Mississippi workforce can also build careers with 2-year degrees, apprenticeships, industry-recognized certificates, or other on-the-job training. Learn how Mississippi is improving its workforce with credentials earned after high school. Visit ascendto55%.org.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the stage Luke Colville, who is with Boeing, our morning session sponsor. We have a little video that we want to show right now, and then he and I are going to talk for just a minute about what's happening here in Mississippi. So if y'all would cue up the Boeing video, and we will take a look at that.
Welcome to Aurora Flight Sciences here in Columbus, Mississippi. We specialize in advanced composite fabrication of aero systems.
In November of 2017, Aurora became part of the Boeing family. Aurora and Boeing worked closely together on development of the skins for the MQ-25 program. The MQ-25 is the first unmanned carrier-based refueler for the United States Navy.
The advantages that the MQ-25 composite skins give to the warfighter are they are lightweight, resilient, strong, and tailored designed to perform their function to perfection.
Joined the U.S. Army, served 2 tours in Afghanistan. When I got the opportunity to come here to see what they were doing here, I honestly couldn't believe it. It meant me coming home, and it meant me being able to make up for a lot of those moments that I might have missed when I was gone, and that means everything.
So in this region of Mississippi, there's a growing aerospace and growing overall industrial and manufacturing base. We have partnerships with Mississippi State University, East Mississippi Community College. There's also the Columbus Air Force Base located over in Columbus as well.
It's awesome to be so close to Mississippi State University. They get to support us in what we're doing, and we get to support them in what they're doing as well. It's really cool to be able to, contribute back to my alma mater.
So I went to East Mississippi Community College, and I actually finished at the top of my class.
That integration has been a great pipeline for us, and it helps build, sustain, and enrich the lives of the local community.
Perfect. I am very much from Mississippi. I grew up about 30 miles north of here. My dad's farmer. To be able to support the advanced technology that we're doing here at Aurora is something I never thought I'd get to be a part of.
Luke, thank you for being with us. First of all, thank you for sponsoring our morning session. Wonderful, wonderful video. I had a chance to view it earlier, but it talks a lot about what your company is doing in our state. Kind of talk about that for a minute and kind of why that's important to make that type of investment here in Mississippi.
Sure, and just want to, before I do that, just say thank you. So happy to sponsor this morning. It's a great video. It highlights a lot of the great work that we're doing. And what I like about it is it shows our employees actually doing it, where they come from right here in Mississippi. What I don't like about it is how much I'm in it. It needs to be more of our team and our workers. So Aurora is about a 1,000-person company overall. We've got 4 different sites, and here in Mississippi we've got about 100 employees currently. We focus on advanced materials, advanced composites, and aircraft structures, and do everything from small production programs, relatively small production programs, to one-off novel aircraft builds at our site right there on the Golden Triangle campus.
And as you move forward, thinking about what the future looks like, and we've talked a lot this morning about the educational system, how it relates to post-secondary education, getting people trained for specific jobs. How can we as an organization in what we do from a legislative perspective help y'all get to where you need to be with your overall goals and long-term plans for our state?
Absolutely. I think we were I want to take a little bit of credit for being slightly ahead of what we're doing currently. We started working with East Mississippi Community College years ago about workforce development, about tuition, or about creating curriculums for workforce development. What is great is that now the state, over the past couple of years has really blown that up and made it a lot bigger. What we need to do now is continue those efforts, maybe even double down on those. The governor was talking about our career coaches. I can't emphasize enough the impact of those career coaches and really working on the workforce development side. When we talk about hiring and growing and having additional employees at Aurora specifically, for every engineer I hire, I need 5 or 10 workforce. So our focus has to be on how do we grow those numbers on the workforce side, along with how do we get those engineers and scientists and in the front office professionals as well. And so my request is we keep doing it. We double down on it, quite frankly. I want to continue to grow. The site wants to continue to grow. The state wants to continue to grow, and we do that through our workforce.
Well, listen, we really appreciate you being with us this morning. We appreciate the fact that y'all are making such a major investment here in the state and continue to give opportunities to Mississippians to be successful. So again, thank you for being here, and we look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. At this
It's
time,
the sizzle in your bacon, the comfort in your cozy socks, the heat that can't be beat. With natural gas, saving money just feels natural. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
So we're gonna have to. So I've reached out to try to see if we can come this way. That's right. At this time, we do have a very special panel. I'd like to ask our career coaches if they would come on over and get ready to come on the stage because we really want to spend some time talking with them about what's going on. But before I do, there's a video that I think kind of can set the mood for what we're doing today on this topic. So if y'all would cue up our video for career coaches, and we'll get going.
My name is Alexandria Burrell. My dad went to work straight out of high school. He learned a skill. He was an offshore welder, and he worked for 40 years straight. The only job he ever had my entire life, and he took very good care of his family. I'm a product of workforce. It's so many opportunities for the students now, especially for those that want to work with their hands and everything. So I feel like I'm in the perfect place. It's a dream job.
I'm very pumped to be here on a daily basis. I look forward to it every day. We are here to expose the kids to all the opportunities and career paths that are out there, to prepare them for those career paths, the ones that they want to pursue. And then the last thing is to connect them to that career or that career path.
She really inspired me to do what I really want to do.
He said his dad was a truck driver. I said, well, won't you try truck driving? He said, I don't think that's what I want to do. But he told me, Miss Watson, my dad let me drive his truck. And I said, how did it feel? He said, Miss Watson, that's the best thing you could have ever told me.
Around here, she inspired a lot of kids. I think that we really need Miss Watson. Somebody to motivate you to do something that you never thought you would do. But, hey, I'm doing it. I just hauled 5 loads of dirt yesterday. I'm doing it.
It is so in line with our vision here, and that's to get our students college, career, and enlistment ready. With that team of CTE, counselors, career coaches, now they can all work together.
The career coach role is very important because the students get to come in her office. They have her full attention for that one-on-one conversation.
The Mississippi Department of Education has instituted a new class called a career class, and all of our juniors take it. It's probably one of the best things that's been inserted into our curriculum in a long time. It's practical. Colin, our career coach for here, has done a great job connecting with our students through that class. But I would say this inaugural year, it's been outstanding.
That was really important to me because, I was lost. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. Well, I knew I was interested in, aerospace, but what route would I go to? And then when I talked to him about it, he said, well, here are the plans we can go through to get you to that dream you want to accomplish. Now I feel great. I'm more focused on what I need to do and what I want to do.
When she came into our classroom, I heard her mention something about the different fields, and I went and asked if they had something for dental because that's what I wanted to go to. She said there was one place open. Although the office wasn't doing internships, she was able to go in, kind of work with them, and get me on the program.
One of the major things that I believe the career coach provides is hope. Hope in sometimes hopeless situations, encouragement in the face of what a student is actually dealing with. It's a win-win for the students because we show you what life is about. We put you out there before it's even time. So we give you the opportunity to actually see what your life is going to be about before you even graduate high school. I think this is the place that I'm supposed to be, and these are the students that I'm supposed to help. And that's the most fulfilling part. I get up thinking about them, and I go to bed thinking about them.
Please welcome our career coaches. Just anywhere you want to sit. Just a little background as we talk about this. This was created in 2022 following a model that the Create Foundation up in Northeast Mississippi had done in 3 counties across the Pull Alliance there in Northeast Mississippi. When legislation passed, we wanted to follow that model. The governor talked about that this is not funded by the schools. They're not paid for by the schools. They're paid for by Accelerate. That's where everything is done so that they have the autonomy to focus on the one job they're there to do. And we're only in our first year of that program, but we really are making some great progress. First full year of our program. We're currently at 177 coaches serving 187 high schools across the state. That's about 80% of the high schools have some access to a career coach at this point. And we're really starting to see that focus on how do we get to a successful career pathway. So I want to welcome first Lorraine Hamer, from Holmes Community Central High School in Holmes County. She's a native of Holmes County. After graduating from Mississippi Valley State, she returned home, spent 37 years as an educator, teaching English, journalism, got a specialist degree in curriculum instruction and professional development. And now you get to work a little bit more defined, I guess, with this. What was it that intrigued you about being a career coach?
Well, I think that the most thing that intrigued me about becoming a career coach is that I'm able to talk about those career options, those special career options that are out there and available for the students. As an educator for 37 years, we spent a lot of time with tests. You need to graduate and go to a 4-year college. Well, we lost something along the way. We realized that we got diverse students out there, and some of these students don't want to go to 4-year colleges. So I say, as a career coach, I'm able to tell them, oh, you don't have to. There are technical careers and there are trades out there like welding, you have HVAC, you have plumbing, roofing. I mean, the list is endless, where you can go and pursue in a short period of time and you can receive or earn a competitive salary, equivalent or even better than those who are on the 4-year level. So that intrigued me the most, because our kids need to know that they have those options available for them after high school.
And I think that's, as you think about it, also with us is Colleen Leggett. She is from West Jones High School. She's actually employed through the Economic Development Authority of Jones County, which got the grant from Accelerate to do that. You've been working with high school students as a recruiter at Southern Miss before coming back home, and now you're connecting to the local students. Kind of the same question, what led you to do this?
Yeah, so my professional experience being in enrollment management and recruitment, I was very familiar with working with high school students, specifically the demographic of 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade students, and of course very familiar working in the education sector, working with counselors, principals. So when this position became available, I realized, I kind of started thinking about it more, that I loved my job as a recruiter at Southern Miss, but I think I started to realize that I loved more the process of goal setting amongst these students. Regardless of what pathway they were taking, there is something to be said about interactions with these high school students, that no matter what their next decision is after they graduate, they're all on the precipice of making these huge decisions that are changing the trajectory of their life. And so for me, with this position as a career coach, I really liked that it was taking all of the things that I loved about, that recruitment standpoint of working with those students, but it was changing the conversation to being more about setting goals for your career. And the question became, what is your career that you're wanting to go into, or what skills do you have? What do you think that would yield into for a certain career that you would actually like and be good at? And then shaping the question of, what's your next steps to get there, whether that is a 2-year program at a community college, whether it's going to an advanced training course, or whether it's doing a 4-year route, whatever that may look like. It felt like it was personalizing the position to the students, making sure that they have their voices heard and you're giving them the most efficient pathway to whatever they want to accomplish in their career goals.
And then our final panelist is Jim Sutherland with Columbus High School. You're from a military family. I mean, we got a couple of Mississippi natives here, and then we have you, who I understand lived in 5 states by the time you were in the 4th grade. So
redheaded stepchild.
But you've also served, and you were with the 255th Air Guard in Biloxi Gulfport, and then had a career in securities and investments, and now you're doing this. What was this? What was it about this opportunity that got you excited?
Yeah, opportunity is the word. And you talk about all these other ladies here have an education or some type of background in that. Mine was business, all business pretty much. And being in the military, and then also graduated from the Citadel and went to different trainings, and then going into security. So I saw this opportunity, and I've worn many hats. I tell you, that's the one key for me. I've worn a lot of hats, so when these kids say, talking about this or that, yeah, I've done recycling. I used to do cardboard and all that stuff, and I've had jobs and other things. So when this opportunity came along, I was sitting at one of your MEC tour meetings there back in August of 22 at Lion Hills Country Club up there in Columbus, and you started talking about ascent to 55%. I'm sitting there, that's pretty. At the time I was unemployed. I'm sitting there, oh, that's pretty neat. Yeah. Now I'm sitting with Dr. Sam Allison. He's our Lowndes County superintendent for the school district. And then you hit, thank you, legislature, Mr. Younger, Chuck Younger, thank you so much for the legislature, everybody voting for these career coaches. And I'm like, what? And I go, Sam, do you know about this? He goes, yeah, I've gotten 3 names already, and I didn't know you were interested. I didn't know about it. I mean, immediately at that meeting, I walk over to Miss Greta Miller, who's at EMCC. She's the WIOA, Workforce Industry Opportunity, works with that. And I said, who's doing this thing for the workforce, for dealing with career coaches? He said, oh, you need to call Dave Kitchen. He said, 3 Rivers Planning and blah, blah. So, great, do you have his number? I call, leave a message. 2 days go by, I haven't heard anything. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call the head honcho, Terry Treadaway. So 3 Rivers, I call him, and I had worked with him a little bit. I used to be the Lowndes County Director for Department of Human Services and had worked with him on some things. And anyways, called him, and I get to the message here, I finish up the answer to the question, but he put my resume on Dave's desk, and Dave finally called me. And he goes, well, Jim, I didn't think you'd want to have a call at 2 or 3 in the morning. Well, my wife and I were in Sweden and Switzerland and going to Germany. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But anyways, the opportunity to me, I poured some of my life into working with the parents. And if we want to change Mississippi, it's time to pour our lives into the youth, the education system of these kids. And I grabbed hold of that because I had, not saying it was bad, but I felt like I was banging my head against the wall when I was working at DHS. It's a great program to help people get along. But there were some people, I've been on DHS for 12 years, and I'm thinking, gosh, man, what can I do to help you? And because the whole purpose of DHS is self-sufficiency, get them to a point of self-sufficiency. And so when the opportunity came along and I heard about the career coach thing, I said, man, if we want to change Columbus, Lowndes County, the state, whatever, let's start pouring into our kids. So I said, let's go for it, man.
What you need to do is tell Columbus High School they owe MEC a finder's fee.
Oh, okay. That sounds good to me.
Let's dig a little bit deeper. Colin, I'll go to you first. Partnerships have got to be important. So talk a little bit about partnerships, collaborations that y'all have established with business leaders to kind of enhance that and make some things happen on that front.
Yeah. So there are 3 career coaches in Jones County, and we're all employed under the EDA of Jones County umbrella. So like Scott had mentioned earlier, and underneath that umbrella also exists our Chamber of Commerce. And so because of that, we're able to have a lot of interactions with a lot of different business and industry representatives in our area. So specifically, we have monthly Chamber of Commerce networking events where when we first started in October of 2022, we were able to go ahead and kind of start meeting different people, putting our names out there, but then also getting a feel for really who's in the community, who's in the positions that we really need to be in that network with, and then also understanding a little bit more about what these individuals are needing from us and what they are needing from the positions that they're either going to have available, what they currently have available, really just getting a better idea of what our community needs. So some of the partnerships and collaborations that have come from that is really, we created what we like to refer to as this revolving door in the schools, that we have this network of people that are either our manufacturing industry leaders, or we have people that work in different various, even small business owners that are willing to come into the schools and interact with the students face-to-face and one-on-one. That's really been our biggest source of collaboration, is the ways that our community has really wanted to be a part of this as well. And so we've had events where they're able to interact with students, and it's beneficial not only for the students to kind of get their foot in the door per se, but then also for that HR employee or whoever it is, their corporate recruiter, whatever it is, for them to also know that student's name. It's been very beneficial because it's not only just us going in front of these students saying, hey, employers need this, this, and this for their next generation of workforce leaders. They're hearing it directly from the source. They're hearing it from someone that has the actual, credibility being in that industry, saying, this is what you need to be successful. So from those conversations, we heard a lot of things kind of kept coming up. One of the main things, especially for students going immediately into the workforce, that we kept hearing is that it seemed like a lot of students coming out of this generation didn't have the same practical skills that they would see historically. So things that I'm talking about, like being able to read a tape measure, being able to do simple math to convert quarts to gallons, things of that nature that we kind of kept hearing come up, and we know that those are being taught, but maybe the students don't understand the importance of that going into the workforce. So we partnered with Jones College, who has been a tremendous partnership throughout this program. I mean, they have been phenomenal in supporting us in a lot of our efforts for trying to kind of contribute to the community in this aspect. So we got in touch with Dr. Michael Trest with the Online Workforce College and helped create what we call these pathways, where students are able to go in, log into these modules, where when they complete these modules that have all sorts of activities and interactions for these students to practice a certain set of skills. So we created one specifically for these practical manual skills that when a student does go into a job interview, or if they are going into a job immediately out of the workforce, or even if this is something along the line, along their professional journey, they're able to have on their resume their badge that they've completed this program, that they've had some training in these practical manual skills, that they can use that, learn from it, take it with them, whatever their professional goals are. With Jones College, kind of in that same sphere, we've had several different interactions with them where they have been very supportive of, whatever we may need for that example specifically, but then even our actual schools. Our schools have been, Jones County School District, Laurel School District, we have been very lucky that our counselors and our administrators at those schools have been extremely supportive of whatever we need. So whenever we come to them with these ideas of all these events that we want to do and the ways that we want to have these job shadows for students to go outside of the school, or if they want to go on these field trips, we've been very fortunate that they've also been a huge partner and a huge contributor in the success of this program as well.
And that's just it, finding success. You talked earlier, Lorraine, about how you were telling, have you thought about this pathway, or have you thought about that pathway? How do you help them identify what their strengths and interests are to determine what those pathways may be?
Well, first of all, I think that, and a lot of people might think this is just unimportant, but we began by, as career coaches, we began by becoming avid listeners. We have to listen to those students so that we can find out what their interests are, what their goals are, what their expectations are for themselves. And by listening to them, we discover what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And this whole conversation fully equips us to bring in the right people when we're doing career fairs. Invite the right businesses and industries in to talk to them because of that conversation with them. It helps us to find out what step further we need to take to kind of put them on that career path. We also support them by, I know SP South Delta send their coaches out to other schools and colleges so that we'll be better informed, or better equipped to come back and tell our students what those particular career options are available for them. They also send us out to the businesses and the industries to see what career options they have for those students who are coming out of school. So we support them by becoming well informed about what's available out there, so we can bring it back to them and kind of help them get on their career paths.
Exactly. And Jim, kind of along the same lines in terms of strategies that you use or tools, because there are a lot of different type of career avenues available for students. So how do you navigate that?
Well, one of the things is with juniors and different and seniors too, we have these assessments, and they're not like, what is the algebraic equation of this formula, blah, blah, blah. It's none of that junk. The assessments are brain games, where it's telling them and trying to answer questions in the way, how would you do this, or how would you tweak this or do that? In other words, it will assess what their aptitude is and what their skills are good at. One of them is called Major Clarity. We use that. Another one called Use Science. We use that. And that's mainly for juniors, and Major Clarity, we work with that. So then there's also the ACT Work Keys. We have tons of tools in a way of assessing what is good and what they're good at. We also have what's called the Lounge Young Leaders, and that's a Chamber of Commerce thing where it's for juniors and seniors. We pick so many, or the Chamber does, to get these kids into community service and visit businesses. There's also the Northeast Mississippi Foundation, and there's another one out of Tupelo by the Create Foundation that is mainly for seniors in the way of helping them. Well, I think that is juniors and seniors too, yeah. And that is to get them, again, in community service and get them out and about and seeing businesses and learn some leadership stuff. Boys State, Girls State, other things that help these kids in assessing where they're at and what they need to do. So when like was said, that when we sit down with the kids, it's one-on-one to begin with.
Right.
Tell me about yourself. You know, I mean, like one lady girl comes in, I know, and she comes in every day to get a little piece of candy. I got my little candy bins where they can grab some candy or a bag of chips or whatever, and they come in and she'll sit down for a while and they start to talk. And that's what it's all about. You know, let me know about you. And she loves to dance, and she's got a little bit of an attitude. When she's out there walking in the hallway, she's like Miss Tough, you know, but when she's with me, she's Miss Sweet. So talking to her and just trying to get to know her, we get to understand where they're coming from and what aptitude or what are their skills, what are their weaknesses. So one thing I do want to press on is we have a program through Three Rivers called EPIC Workforce Program, in which it's all funded through Three Rivers, through some ARPA money, from what I think, ARPA money, but we will sponsor a student, a junior or senior, for 100 hours at a work site. Steel dynamics, now going to be aluminum dynamics. We got PACCAR, we got Yokohama. I think this should be MEC Columbus Lowndes County Day, but because we talk so much about that, and I'm so proud to be there too, and very humbled by being here too. So, but we have this program where we'll sponsor these kids for 100 hours at a work site where something they're interested in. And we'll take care of all the oversight, the work, the liability and all that stuff. But it's a chance for these kids to get hands-on with what they're doing, what they want to do. They can say, oh man, I love it, or nah, I don't love it. So that's another way of trying to let them know what do they want to do. So it's a great thing, and I just say to all you legislators out there, if you can talk to your local businesses, let them know we're coming and that we want to work with them, and that if they can just open up somehow, not look at all the legal stuff all the time, but I understand that. But if they'll just open up, let us have our kids come in and even talk for an hour or two about a person that's in that position of a career path that they want to do, just to get that knowledge for them, to test it out, to whet their appetite, or they can say, yeah, it's not what I wanted at all. Great, let's move on. So got a lot of tools.
A lot of tools. Ryan, you taught college and career readiness when you were a teacher. Mm-hmm. How does this program with career coaches incorporate some of those things from an academic and work-based learning opportunities to help the students be prepared?
Okay, first of all, it is so very important that the college and career, that the career coach develop positive relationship with both of those entities. We have to develop a relationship with them, and we work collaboratively together so that we can ensure that these students receive what they need. Now, in the college and career readiness, they are taught these soft skills. They are taught even those hard skills for a specific task and whatever job that they're interested in. They are taught how to dress for an interview. They are taught how to speak effectively at an interview. They are taught these things both in work-based learning and college and career readiness. My program incorporates it by putting it into action, if you will. For example, I'm going to set up the mock interviews. We're going to set up mock interviews where we're going to actually have actual employers to come in to interview our students. They get a first-hand look at, they're going to bring their resumes in. They're going to be dressed for the part, and they get the chance to experience exactly what an interview situation looks like. So, and after they do that, also how we incorporate it is, after they go through the interview situation, we're going to also allow them career opportunities to shadow. Right now, in our building, we have a particular student who decided he wanted to be a physical education teacher. So we have a physical education teacher in our building, and this particular student right now is shadowing that particular teacher. Now, he found out that he had to do lesson plans and all of that, and that was like the worst end of it. He didn't know he had to do all of that, and along with the duties and all of that, but at least he got a chance to find out what that particular career was about. So I incorporate those particular things that goes on academically with college and career readiness and work-based by actually making my environment a living, working environment for them. I let them actually see what this thing look like. So they're going to be better prepared when they go out there after high school.
That's awesome. That's a great way of getting them to understand. We had just a few more minutes left, so I've got one question for Jim and the one for you, Colleen. I'm going to start with Jim. Jim, you talked in you sent me kind of some ideas and proposal, what you do when you do presentations. And one of the things you used was you had the old connect the dot puzzles like we did as kids. And this panel is actually connecting the dots. Talk about the keys to connecting the dots. I guess it's more. There's a lot to it. It's connecting what you enjoy doing. It's connecting what you're good at doing. It's also connecting the dots of what a good career means. Talk a little bit about why connecting the dots with these students is so important.
Yeah, it all comes back again to businesses and colleges and all that. And the way when you were little, they had the little connected out thing where 1, 2, 3, and you use a pencil. Don't use a pen because you mess up and go around like, where's dot 23? I don't even see it. But the dots, and then after you connect all the dots, you see what the image is. Oh, it's a tiger, or it's a bunny, or it's a sun, And that's exactly pretty much what we're doing here. We're connecting the dots with these kids and having resources and options for them to look at. Internships, apprenticeships. We've also got job shadowing, which is a great one, very easy. Had a young lady who's very smart young lady, graduated from EMCC with her associates prior to even getting her high school diploma. I mean, dual credit. It was awesome. And she is now at Xavier, but she was interested in forensic pathology. I'm like, oh man, isn't that like dead bodies, man? I'm like, so anyways, I know Greg Merchant. He's the Lowndes County coroner. I call him and say, Greg, would you mind? I have this one lady who's really interested in this, and could she come? I know she can't go with you to pick up bodies, but can you at least talk to her? He goes, yeah, sure. So drop her off, make sure she's there, take pictures of him and her, and hey, great, I can post that. And come back a little bit later. Next day she comes back. I said, how was it? She goes, man, this is exactly what I want to do. I love it. She's at Xavier right now, and she's studying that. And so in the way of connecting the dots, that's part of it, and also the assessment's part of it. But the job shadowing, we have cooperative education. We have business speakers that come in, like you were talking about, that come in and speak to let us know what's going on, or they can fill in the dots for these kids and connect it all together. So
a lot of different things we could do.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to wrap up with a final question to you. As a college recruiter, I know you probably spent time not only recruiting students but recruiting parents.
Absolutely.
As a career coach, what is the role that you see parents and guardians playing in this process of understanding what this program actually does?
Yeah, so I think that, parents, they do play probably one of the most important roles in terms of how a student or how a child is going to develop their career path. Part of that, whether it's indirectly or directly, whether they're explicitly coming to you asking questions about, what job should I get or how am I going to make the most money? Or if it's indirectly in the way that they hear other people, particularly parents or family members, relatives, talking about certain careers. So I always encourage parents to ask questions. Go ahead and start meeting with either your high school counselor, you can meet with your career coach, you can meet with various different people. If your student's going on a college campus tour, go with them to get a better idea of what questions to ask, you want to get them answered, but then just to get that perspective. Another thing that I usually try to kind of communicate to parents is that the job market has changed a lot over, I feel like it's every 10 years you're going to see different shifts and kind of the way the workforce has changed. So one thing that I do try to advise parents is to be a little bit open-minded that the job market has changed, therefore some career paths may look a little bit different. And so where typically, if a parent's thinking that, in order for my child to be successful, they have to get this 4-year degree or else they're not going to make enough money. Where there's different pathways to get to different careers, and the question again, kind of what I mentioned earlier, should be what is the career that they're trying to get, and let's find the most efficient pathway to get there. So for parents, they're involved in the process because obviously they want what's best for their child. I'm not naive to that. I know that is something that every parent has on their mind. They want their child to do well, be healthy, have a good livelihood. Okay. And for that, I think what's important is that the parents know that they do have an open line of communication, at least through me. I know there's plenty of people at West Jones High School that are welcome to talking to any parent about any concerns or questions they have about what happens next. But that's something that, my time at Southern Miss to now, the parents are an important role. They are an important person in this decision-making process for that student, and I want to make sure that they know that it's not, whether they think a question is silly or not, it's important to ask them because it's important to be informed because this is their child making these big decisions to move forward in the next phase of their life.
And I think it's important to point out that career coaches aren't just career technical driven, they're academic driven. You're trying to find the best pathway for the student, and I think that's how we make a difference. The charge to each of you, as I mentioned earlier, we're about 80% of our schools across the state currently have career coaches. When you're talking to your legislature, when you're talking to your leaders, encourage them to provide whatever the funding is necessary for us to make sure we can put career coaches in every high school across the state, because in doing so, that's when we start to make a difference. That's when all of the career coaches that are out there, I think there's 177, you only get to hear from 3 of them a day. There's 177 out there that are making a difference in children's lives, making a difference in students' lives. And we thank the 3 of you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope that y'all will continue to have great success as we go forward.
Let me just say one thing. If you have any career coaches in your area, go visit them. Go see them in action. Go check them out. I encourage you to do that.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a path for your life? Mississippi has thousands of jobs for people with training and education beyond a high school diploma. There are opportunities to earn industry-recognized credentials, professional licenses, and apprenticeships, many for low or no cost. Or continue your education to earn Associate of Applied Sciences or bachelor's degrees with financial aid available. Move up and make more. Learn more at ascendto55%.org.
What a great program that is. I do need to make y'all aware of something. We're going to have a change in plans. Y'all may have saw in the news yesterday there was a bomb threat at the Capitol. Apparently there's been another issue today. So we're not going to be able to go over. But Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman has been very gracious enough to come and join us here this morning, and we appreciate that very much. And with that, I'm going to ask him to come talk a little bit about what he is doing in terms of his legislative agenda and some of the things that we as MEC can continue to work with him.
You got a microphone?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Scott. Although it really wasn't much of a choice whether to come with you or stay in the building with the bomb. Whatever. Speaking of bombs, I went down there earlier today and I asked the guys got the dog, and he sniffed out something. So we're closed right now. Be open hopefully at 11. So I said to him, that dog's really qualified. Dog's unbelievable. I said, do you think I could borrow him to duck hunt this weekend? Not a grin. Bomb people don't have a real good sense of humor. So, whatever. Along that same dog line, I'd have to tell you all this. My wife has her Bible study group in, and it's about a third study and about 2/3 gossip. So I'm excused from those from the house. So I went to the grocery store, and I'm walking through the grocery store picking up something for supper, and this lady comes up to me and she says, I want to tell you something. Is it okay if I interrupt you? I know you're here in the grocery store. Is it okay if I interrupt you? I said, oh, yes, ma'am. I work for you. I'm a full-time employee of the state. I work for you. She said, yes, I've been wanting to say this to you. And I'm thinking in my mind, we cut taxes, increased education, career coaches, so many things that the legislature did this year. So I'm thinking it may be something positive. She said, I live in your neighborhood. And if y'all don't know, every morning I get up and I run with my lab through the neighborhood. We jog together, watch the world wake up. It's a real calm time. So she said, yes, I've been wanting to tell you this. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you have the nicest dog. So I can just tell you, I'm grounded. No matter what else we do on career coaches or taxes or accelerated depreciation, I got a nice dog. So there you go. We have cut income taxes this last couple of years. We'll roll into 2026. I saw in Iowa they were so proud of themselves cutting to 5.3. We're going to 4. And those are in addition to our other tax cut that we started prior to this time. We did do accelerated depreciation, which is an immediate tax cut for those of you who own a small business or a large business. Every CapEx that you've got will be 100% deductible this year. We did fund the most ever for infrastructure, $100 million for our roads and bridge fund, $2.3 billion into infrastructure. We're actually paying for infrastructure and repairs and maintenance 2 years in advance. That's never been done in Mississippi history. We're real proud of that. We, the legislature particularly, needs kudos. They are not dictating where the actual roads and bridges go anymore. Those are actually done by the Highway Commission. We simply fund the engineers who make the good decisions. Used to be that we had a hodgepodge or whoever the chairman was got their road fixed. We're not doing that. We're doing it the correct way. We gave teacher pay raises, $6,000 the last couple of years. I'm real proud of that. I think that's important. You see in the career coaches come, we started with 80, 140, 180. We're going to 200, and we will increase them again this year. They're fantastic. That's one of the better ideas we've had about things that go on with education. So that leads us to where we are. And we have the worst labor force participation rate in the country. That's what the facts are. This next year, we're going to propose that we have last dollar tuition free community college. We have great community colleges. Our young men and women deserve the opportunity to get that degree that puts them up in your specialty area, whatever it may be, in your banking, construction, whatever the topic may be. So last dollar tuition is part of the culmination of a preconceived, premedicated way where we go pre-K, 5 and 6 year old kids, starting in pre-K, 20,000 of them now, through your 3rd grade reading gate, through your college career coaches, through your community college system, all free public education. Now, if we're going to change the labor force participation rate, we've got to have competent people. And that competency will come from education. So that's why you'll see us continue to do this. We're not through with that scenario. So many schools you'll see are going to what we call semester or year-round schools. That's happening in Mississippi. I intend by the end of my 4 years term that y'all have hired me to do here, that we'll have more year-round or semester system schools in any place in the country, because it's real important for people to stay in school and learning in a safe environment, getting fed and listening to Mr. Sutherland about what their careers are. That's really important. And that's how we move the labor force participation rate. Now, some of this is your personal integrity. It's your personal drive to do that. That comes from parents, teachers, individuals themselves. That comes from coaches and career coaches. It comes from faith-based community. It comes from everybody in here. That's why his suggestions are so important to you, that you take and mentor somebody. Ask them to come work for you. Give them just a chance to see you for a day or whatever. What that does, first of all, gives you first choice of getting a new employee, which is hard anymore. We're 3%, basically a little over 3% unemployment rate. That means 97% of our people who are looking for a job have got one. There's only like 3% that don't. So basically, Mississippi is fully employed. That's where we are. The only way to add to the pool is to get a more educated workforce that joins the pool. And at 53.9%, we're not near average. Average is 61. So we have a huge pool of people that could be working for you, making you better, making your jobs better, making your company better, making their lives better, making our state better, all of that if they were just working. So we're going to start with pre-K through community college, and we're really not through when we get there. And to do that, we need your help. We need the leaders of Mississippi business, which is you. You need to be a part of that. Mr. Sutherland's comments were particularly accurate, I thought. If you help 1 or 2 or 10, what happens when somebody comes to work for you for a week and maybe even gets a paycheck? What do? They go back, they get with their buddies and say, you know, I went to work for so-and-so company today, and it was so great. I learned how to pour concrete, or I learned how to balance my checkbook, or I learned whatever you're doing. I learned that it becomes cool to work. It's not cool to not work. It becomes, look, my buddy is over here. Look at him. He's going to get a job here. He's going to get a new car and a better cell phone. Those things are important when you're 16, 17 years old and making your career path. So it's so important for y'all to have a hand in the development of the labor force participation rate. It is not acceptable. Today, when I addressed the joint legislative session between the Senate and the House, I'll again emphasize, at 53.9, we're 4% from having more people on not working than we have working between 16 and older. That is not sustainable for our country, for our city, for our state, for anybody. So the decline stops here, and it has to start with what you do. And so we're in the state, we're going to emphasize making sure that these young men and women have those educational opportunities. We have people encouraging them to do that. We ask you to help us with that effort. I think it's really, really important. The next thing you're going to see a big scramble about here, starting in 2 weeks, will be health care. So we have health care issues in Mississippi. Y'all read the paper and you face it when you pay those of you who have insurance, health insurance, you face it when you pay your health insurance. So we're going to address health care in Mississippi. Now, when you do that, probably for good reasons, the hospitals have been kind of the antithesis of everything, but that's not really the problem. We have mental health issues, we have access to health issues, we have staffing issues. You see the legislature's built a new University of Mississippi nursing school, new nursing schools at Pearl River and other places around here to give those nurses. We have a rural scholarship program for doctors. We built a new DO school at William Carey. We're trying to fund the staffing that's needed for this. The structure of these hospitals is sometimes like some of our businesses. They're older and they're not up to date. And so what you've got to decide is where we're going to deliver the primary health care and what's the most efficient way to do that. And Hill-Burton was great 75 years ago, but it's time now to take another look at how we're going to structure those hospitals and how we're going to structure healthcare in Mississippi. We started that path last year, y'all, by allowing community hospitals to merge around the state. Watch what that goes on. You're going to be the leader in your community, so you need to be the leader in where healthcare is going in your community. Every one of you. And so it's very, very important that we have this holistic approach, not this rifle approach, or shotgun approach, but we need to have where we have a comprehensive addressing of the ability of working people to have access to health care, hospitals to function in a manner which is economically feasible, staffing from people who are qualified. All of those are pending. Mental health, we have mental health issues in schools now. And Mr. Sutherland and the other career coaches will tell you about those. We have child protective services with 4,000 kids in our care. This health care thing is a huge thing. And when I talk to my hospital administrators, and I've talked to every one of them from New Albany to Pascagoula and everywhere in between, they tell me that the so-called X word is not the sole answer. And it is not. It is part of the economic answer of one way to structure the new healthcare system we're going to have in Mississippi, but it is not the sole answer. So you'll see the Senate having our hearing starting in about 2 or 3 weeks. Talk with Scott about this. We want you to participate. We want you particularly to take a leadership role and endorse a process where you think we ought to go, because I will need you to do that. My senators and my members of the House and my members of the legislature are asking for your leadership on this issue. Now, on your own health care, there's some fear that you will cancel your health insurance and you'll therefore dump people on the state. You're not going to do this because your other employer, who's your competitor, has health insurance. So you're not going to say, I'm not going to give you any health insurance. There's only 3% of the people that want to work that aren't working. So you're not going to run your best people off because somebody's got health insurance next door. So I don't fear that, really. Besides that, you realize that a healthy employee is somebody that's going to continue to work for you. And an unhealthy employee is going to cost you a lot of money. So I'm not fearful of us, of my business community, abandoning the healthcare industry. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think based on economics and morality, you're not going to do that. So we stand ready to address that difficult issue this year. And so I'm personally asking each of you to help me do that, both in your local community and on the statewide level when we do this in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll see all of that come. On the positive note, we've never been in the shape that we're in, financially or otherwise. We've cut taxes to 4%. We're the 6th lowest tax state. Our education's risen to 35th from 50th. We have paid off. You of all people would know this. After this year, we will have paid off $900 million in state debt. 24% of the state's debt has been erased in the last 3 years. We do not intend to borrow any money this year. That alone will show you that we're not mortgaging your economic future or your children's future in this state. We have very positive economic matters. We'll be looking not this year, but next year, our economic incentive package again, MFLEX, which we worked on with so many of y'all to draft the last time. It's ready for a refresh, and we'll start that process. So we stand here with money in the bank, paid off a lot of our credit card, have upped our education and our infrastructure, and we are ready to address these other issues that are come to Mississippi, and it's time to do those. The leadership in this room will be the decisive factor. My senators and my House members as well, I assume, listen to you. They respect your opinion. Don't stand on the sideline this next year, because we all need your expertise, your mental capacity, and your moral support. So, I'm going back down where they have bombs. Y'all are welcome to come, but you're too valuable. You probably need to stay down here. It was helpful that they said they were going to bomb the Supreme Court this time as well as the state capitol. So at least we're all in it together. Your organization, I remember from its genesis, and I helped write some of the bylaws of this organization long ago, and with my partner, Reuben Anderson. And I remember thinking I was hopeful as to where y'all would end up and how you would end up being the Chamber of Commerce for the state. You've achieved that, and with that comes a responsibility. Because you're really good at this, you need to be really good at leading. So we're looking forward to working with all of you. We get sworn in at 2 o'clock, either at the Capitol or downtown somewhere. You're all invited. We're going to have a really good 4 years, y'all, and I'm looking forward to working with each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Hoseman. We appreciate you being willing to adjust your schedule to join us today. Of course, we hate that y'all are having to deal with this. It's unfortunate that's sometimes happens to be the case, but we really appreciate all the work that the Lieutenant Governor has done. I would be remiss to say, if it weren't for his work, we would not be where we are with our Career Coach program, with Accelerate Mississippi, and a lot of the things that's taken place. So thank you so much for all of that. At this time, I'd like to introduce Manley Barton. Manley was just on Tuesday elected the Speaker Pro Tem for the House of Representatives. He is here today representing the House. Since we can't go to the Capitol, he was willing to come to us, and have had the opportunity to work with Manley for a number of years on a variety of things, and very excited about him being in this role. And we just want you to know we want to help you any way we can, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, you know, I was sitting over there waiting, and I was thinking, I think the governor got my notes before he got up here and spoke. I think just about everything I wrote down he has addressed, but I'm going to give you maybe a little bit different perspective. I hope so. As I look out across the room, I see some really good friends, been friends a long time, and I know y'all have, many of these people have certainly been in leadership roles across the state and have given of your time to make your communities and the state better. Well, we've had an interesting start to the session. 2 mornings in a row, people had to run out of the building. As I was pulling up this morning, I got to the Capitol around 9 o'clock. I had a couple of things to do early and pull into the parking lot and hear people are running out of the building and blue lights everywhere. So I just kept on going. I just went on down the street and parked for a few minutes. And hopefully this isn't going to be a pattern. I think I heard yesterday at the end of the day there were something like 17 or 18 capitals across the country all got bomb threats yesterday. So, but maybe we'll go ahead and be able to get started because we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. As I was thinking about kind of what to talk about this morning and listening to the governor talk a while ago, you know, if you go back and look at where we've been, go back 4 or 5 years ago, even 7 or 8 years ago, you know, we've accomplished a lot over that period of time. There's some really big things we've done. We've been able to come together and get some of these issues off the table. Some of these things should have been addressed long ago, but weren't for whatever reason. But I think we've kind of set a high bar, and so we've got to continue to try to keep that, what I'll call the run going, to accomplish big things as we move forward. You know, the governor was talking about a couple of things that I think certainly this group can help us with, and as y'all all well know, we have some issues that are facing us that I think certainly the speaker has addressed, and I addressed in my speech to the House the other day. But things like health care, I mean, that's very important to y'all. The education piece, the economic development piece, all of those things improves the quality of life in the communities you live in, helps your businesses, and those are things that we've got to do. But some of the things, and I thought the governor did a good job. I'd like to kind of delve just a little bit further into it, is the Accelerate, the career coach programs that we started a couple of years ago. We funded about half of that program 2 years ago. Last year, we got it to about 3/4 funded to put a career coach in every high school in the state. That's the goal. That's where we need to end up. And as I have become more and more acquainted with that and work with the coaches and talk with the coaches and talk with the teachers at the schools and the students who've used these people, they're filling a role that I just didn't envision 4 or 5 years ago. You know, I thought you had counselors at school and they would help you and so forth. But the good thing, or maybe the great thing about the career coaches is they work for us. They work for the state. They work for you. They're paid by us. But they're in that school, but they also are in the community, and they have a relationship with the business community wherever you are. In Jackson County, I'm very familiar with that process there. And they have relationships with the industry in Jackson County, the shipyards, the refineries, the other businesses there. And they can match up these young people who want a career in whatever it might be with the industry and set it up so that they can get tours and they can talk to people who work in that business. So it goes much beyond just a career person in a high school saying, you know, you've taken this test and it looks like you'd be good at this field, you know. And I'm not saying that's all they do, but that certainly was part of it. These people are going much beyond that and working with each individual students to try to help them find what they want to do and maybe what they're good at or what they have an interest in. But as a part of that whole process, which includes the coaches, 2 years ago, we started funding career and technical training, facilities and upgrades and vocational training at both the high school level and the community college level. If you look at the funding levels that we've spent in career and technical in the last 2 years between high school and community colleges, it's around $100 million. That's a good investment, and we plan on continuing this or trying to do as much as we can, as much more as we can over the next few years to try to get the schools and the community colleges that want to do this. We want to give them the resources to do it and give this training and all to their students. In my area, the career and technical training and the vocational training money that we've given to the various communities there, the high schools and the community colleges, have been well received. They have expanded their facilities. They've added new programs. They, in some cases, we've given them money to upgrade not only the facilities but the equipment that they have to train people on. And the companies that I represent, the Chevrons and the Ingalls and the Bollinger Shipyards and these guys, you know, they love this because they have an opportunity in some cases to hire some folks right out of high school that have the training to go straight to work at the shipyard. And that's something that we need to continue because everybody's not going to go to college. We know that. And we need to, for a variety of reasons, not only for industry, but for these individuals so that they have a career path that they can go down. So this is something we're going to continue to work on. I think the 2 or 3 things that kind of all just kind of fit together, of course, the workforce development, the economic development, and from the workforce development and the efforts that we're putting in there, hopefully we will increase our educated workforce. And that's the goal at the end of the day, is that we have a larger educated workforce for your businesses and other businesses that may wish to come to Mississippi. And so, but I think we're just getting started, but we've got a full agenda ahead of us. The issues, as I've already stated, some of them, the healthcare, workforce, education, getting to an educated workforce, economic development, that's just a few of the things that we're going to be working on. I wrote those down primarily because I thought those were the ones that probably affect the people in this room more than anything else. There's other things that probably have some effect, but those things affect you directly. But as we get into this session, and we actually start, and the governor talked about this a while ago, he's going to have hearings. We're going to certainly do a lot of stuff on our end of the hall and probably participate maybe in their hearings. I don't know. But we're going to be having the same discussions and hearing from the same people. But it is important, vitally important, that we hear from y'all. We need to hear kind of a voice that from y'all about maybe your ideas, things that you think are, if there's something that's not on this list that's important, give us that issue and tell us what you think about it and where you think we maybe ought to go with it and how we ought to fund it or not fund it, or if it's just changing the law to allow something. But at the end of the day, you represent one of the largest groups in the state of businesses. So, you're as the governor said earlier, the Chamber of Commerce. So you represent a broad group that represents the entire state, and certainly we would love to hear your ideas and solutions perhaps on how we address these various issues, because without the input from y'all, it's going to take us longer to get there. And so it really is vitally important that we hear from y'all. As the governor said earlier, we're probably in the best financial shape the state has ever been in. We haven't borrowed money in several years. I don't anticipate us doing that again this year. I think we can probably be able to do everything within the cash that we have. That's a good thing for the state. But I want to emphasize, as we move into this session in the next several weeks, I think it's going to be vitally important that we hear from y'all the issues that y'all believe are important, and why you think it's important, and possibly some solutions and the directions we need to go in to kind of solve those problems. But you know, state is not perfect. We have some issues we've got to work on, and some of these issues have been around a long time. But we've managed to get through some pretty tough issues over the last 4 or 5 years. And some of the ones we've got before us this year are going to be a little difficult, and maybe a little uncomfortable, as some other people have said. But there are issues that we've got to address. They're not going to go away, and the only way we fix them is to face these issues head on, and make some decisions and move on. And I think that's a big part of leadership. Sometimes you've got to step out on a limb, make a decision, and go on to the next issue. And as you folks in here who head up companies and head up your own company maybe, and perhaps, you know, there comes a time you can't put it off anymore. There comes a time when you have to make a decision. My dad used to say the hardest thing for people to do was pull the string, is what he called it. He said they'd grab a hold to it, but he said sometimes you just got to pull it. And so I think that's where we find ourselves as a state on some of these issues that we know has been a problem for a long time. And we need to pull the string, we need to make some decisions, some hard decisions, and move on to the next issue, because as long as this issue is there and you're worrying about it, it's very difficult to get to the next issue, which may be a very difficult issue also. But I'm very excited for the start of the session. We've got 25 new members that are, as some folks have said in the past, that will probably be drinking from the fire hose for just a little while till they get their feet on the ground. We've got to get them to come into the loop. We've got to get them acclimated to the process, and I think they made a big step forward yesterday. They finally got to know where they're going to sit. So we got that behind us, and they were all sitting in their new seats yesterday. So, but we're going to move forward, and I feel really good about our new members. I think they're all going to fit in well, from what I can tell. Here again, we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot of things on our plate, and but I want to go back to the very first thing I said. We need y'all's help. Okay, without y'all's help, a lot of this won't get accomplished. And so we need your help. We need, y'all got a seat at the table, as long as you want one, and we want you to be there, and we want to hear your concerns and your ideas and your solutions. Thank y'all for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you so much, Representative Barton. We appreciate you taking time to come over here. Let me just assure you, that invitation you may not like it after a while if we're always sitting there saying you need to be doing this, but we will definitely
this morning to write myself a speech. I had to go off my name.
But we will definitely be there to assist. Thank y'all so much for coming over. We've got one final piece of business, and then we've made some adjustments. I want to thank our staff for the things that they have done to get us so we can move here in just a few minutes to our luncheon, because when you have things happen, you always have to have a contingency plan, and we did. And one of the people that was very involved in that was Jason Word, who is our manager of public policy. And I'm going to ask him to come up for just a minute to talk a little bit about what MEC will be doing to help keep you informed as we go through this session, and we'll kind of see where we can be that voice for you at the Capitol. Jason, thank you for being here. As I said, thank you for working through the issues and getting the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker Pro Tem to come over and be with us. You know, this is a 120-day session, and we've started off really kind of interesting the last couple of days with what's going on at the Capitol. We knew this was going to be hectic. We just didn't realize it was going to be quite this hectic. And but one of the long-standing tradition is keeping MEC members connected. Our MEC Scramblers is one of the ways to do that. Can you talk a little bit about what's in store this year for our Scramblers and when they'll start?
Most definitely. Well, first of all, good morning to you all. Thank you, Scott, for being here. And hectic, needless to say. There's a lot going on right now. But typically, as Scott mentioned about our Scrambler breakfasts, we host 5 every session. at the museum, Mississippi Museum of Art, and where guests can come and have a great breakfast and connect with our local legislators and kind of hear about the happenings and comings and goings at the Capitol. So we try to keep everybody connected, and once again, it's great breakfast in the morning. So if you don't want to come hear Scott and I talk, you can definitely come get a breakfast.
Well, and that's part of it, and the fact that we're able to have that online is such a big part of helping us get the word out with giving people a voice without question.
Right.
We talked about it being hectic already the last couple of days because of things that happened, but the next couple of weeks, it'll be a little bit different in a 120-day session. So talk a little bit about when will the filing deadlines be, and how would that process work?
As you mentioned, things will probably be a little slower. New administration coming in, as our new legislators, they get used to and meeting their peers and faculty and the other staff and learning the procedural rules at the Capitol. But the first major deadline is about a month away. So then after that, all the deadlines will be generally about a week and a half to 2 weeks after that. So we got a big deadline coming up where filing constitutional amendments and bills, they have to be, I think that's February 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah.
So it extends a little bit to allow for the selection of committee members, committee chairs, and things of that nature. But once they start filing, they come in like crazy, don't you? One of your jobs is to have to keep up with all those bills that gets filed. How many do you have to usually look at every year?
Most definitely. Thousands of bills are generally filed, but only a few hundred make it through the process. So I'm sure some of my peers here and other fellow lobbyists that deal with the same thing. So it's an exciting time, and we look forward to sifting through all that legislation and working for the state of Mississippi, basically.
And one thing you have started over the last couple of years to help keep our members informed is what you call your Monday Fast Five. It's just an email that goes out to members that kind of gives them some tell us about this and kind of what they can expect to see when they receive the email. So when you receive his email, Fast Five, make sure you open it, because here's what you're going to learn.
Thank you. Great plug for that. So you should be receiving that email for next week. So typically, I try to determine and locate pertinent legislation that MEC members are really passionate about, and try to give an update to all of our members, and watching that bill as it goes through the legislative process. And then also, I think this is maybe our third year for the Fast Five. I like to just add a tidbit Mississippi fact just to go into it, just to kind of break up the monotony of reading about bills. Maybe we can learn something about Mississippi legislative history that most of us don't know all the time. So.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think I've enjoyed when I read that. I kind of enjoyed looking for what is that usually that fifth item is not a true legislative item. It's more something that gives us some information of something that has happened or may be happening as we go forward. If somebody wants to get onto your mailing list that's not receiving those, if they go for a couple of weeks and hadn't seen it, what do they need to do?
Please contact me directly at jword. That's W-O-R-D, because some people confuse it with Ward, but jword at msmec.com, and I'll definitely make sure that you're added. And also, I failed to mention that our first scrambler that's coming up, that's going to be January 24th, and Jones Walker will be our first sponsor. So please be on the lookout for that. And then also, we at registration table, we have a list of our dates, so you can take a screenshot on your phone, or you can just go straight to the website and go ahead and register. Registration is open as of today, so you can go ahead and register for one or all five of those events. So.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Jason, appreciate what you do for us at MEC. Appreciate your work this morning in helping us adjust on the fly. Having that contingency plan is always important. We hate we're not going to be able to go to the Capitol this morning, but I think y'all understand exactly why, and we don't want to put anybody in harm's way, even though we don't believe it's a real threat. We just never want to take those chances. But what the staff has done, our staff is tremendous at MEC. We have a team of 11. And some of the things we get done with such a small staff sometimes can be amazing. We also have a great team of people that work with us to do things, both from a legislative lobbying standpoint, from the event standpoint, all the things we do at MEC.
So we are going to, if you looked at your agenda, it says lunch starts at 11:30. Our caterer has risen to the occasion, and lunch will start at 11. So in about 5 minutes, the room next, right here to my left, will be opening up. We invite you to make yourself at home. It's a great opportunity to visit with others from across the state, and we appreciate your attendance today at MEC's Capitol Day and look forward to visiting with y'all throughout the legislative session. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank y'all so much.